Good Monday to you, everybody in Gov 603. Welcome to week, boom, bam, 12, not 17. Sorry, I mean to freak you out. How's everybody doing? Let's get this started right. Delicious. There we go. Now I'm your sufficiently caffeinated instructor. Much better coming at you for week 12. In this video, we're going to talk about the material for this a week. And then in the next video, we'll see how you did last week. Now, as I said, I'm going to be throwing out a couple of bonus questions, here or there, give you a chance for 10, 10-ish extra, 10-ish, 10-ish, 20-ish, 10-ish, 15-ish extra points. So watch for those. Okay. This week, we're going to look at regression with categorical variables. Now, there are a couple of things that I need you to just, lock down cold. Budding statisticians and empirical researchers that you are. And that is when we talk about variables, okay, we can put them into two broad categories. All right. Continuous variables and categorical variables. Now, before I tell you what each of those categories are and what that means, I want you to understand, again, you're going to burn this into your brain. Okay. A continuous variable or a categorical variable does not exist like a thing. It's not its own independent thing. Like, say, this cup is a cup. We'll be careful. That's the last coffee. This cup is a cup, and this chapstick is a chapstick, and they are not the same thing. I could not pour coffee into this chapstick, and I couldn't get anything to moisten my lips from this cup. They are two separate things. Categorical or continuous variable is all dependent on how we describe what's going on and how we record the data, what's going on. Let me give you an example as I define what a categorical and what a continuous variable is. Or, there's no order to them, okay? It's like red, blue, blue, red. Who cares? Okay. A categorical variable is a way to measure something, how people feel, how many times they smoke cigarettes, what are their voting habits, whatever. Categorical is a way to measure things, to put those things into categories. So, for instance, some of the classic types of information that go into categorical variables, something like, say, a question about one's sex. Can you see that? I'm using, I should be using the pad. There we go, right here, but I'm using the sticky notes. So I can see there's a lot of reflection on that. Let's dump that. Let's go back to the pad. All right. Here we go. Okay. Categorical variable is a way to measure things that puts them into categories. Okay, so for instance, you see this all the time. On questionnaires, it says, what's your sex? 1 male, 2 female. Now you're in a category. Okay, and by the way, this is called a binary category. It's either 1 or 2. And I'm sorry, there's only 2, and it is binary. All right. Or now you can describe something and put it into a continuous, make it to a continuous variable. And continuous variables are variables that are not put into absolute categories, one or the other, but theoretically could go on, for infinity. So, for instance, they can fluctuate from 0 to some number, and you don't know what that is. So, for instance, another classic continuous variable is age. So you'll see on a survey, what's your age, right? Because what's somebody going to put in there? 5, 18, 27, 50 something. All right. Now, you can describe something as either continuous or categorical. It just depends on how you want to do it. So for instance, let's go back to age. So you could have I've got a weird little bump on my Sharpie marker and it keeps making double lines. I'm going to get out a very sharp knife and take care of that, or I'm going to throw this thing away because it's annoying me. But anyway, so let's say age. Okay. So depending on how you ask it, you could either produce categorical or continuous data. And that's the proper way to speak about it. Okay, categorical or continuous data. And I'll show you how. All right, so let's say you set up a question, okay? And you were asking on a survey, you're asking people's ages. So one way to do it would say, what's your age? And then just let them fill in the box. This would give you what would be called continuous data, because the number could be all over the place. All right. Or you could say, what's your age? Are you above 18, or that's supposed to be a B, below 18? Now the data that you're gathering concerning age is categorical because you're forcing people into either this one or this one. So the term continuous variable, categorical variable simply describes how it is you've captured the data. All right. A categorical variable is not a thing, like a coffee cup is a thing. Continuous variable is not a thing, like, a chapstick is a thing. It describes how you've captured the information. You can make it into categorical data or continuous data. Now, why would you want to do that? That is one or the other. Why not just pick one and stick with it all the time? The answer is math. Because in computing the statistics and computing the probability, there are some equations that require either a set number, like a categorical number, and there are some equations that require that allow for a fluctuating number. Most categorical data, not all, but most, in statistics, in empirical research, is described in binary, either 1 or 2. Okay. Interestingly enough, everything that runs computers is also binary. The computers read zeros, sequences of zeros and ones. And that's the behind the language of software. All right. So that's the reason why. Now, mathematically, in terms of the empirical research, there are things you can do with continuous data and things you cannot do with continuous data, things you can do with categorical data, things you cannot do with categorical data. Linear regression, causal regression, like you did concerning the COVID information, you cannot do that with categorical data. You can, I mean, I shouldn't say you cannot, you can, but the information that you're going to get out, the results you're going to get out is going to be gobbledygook. Now, it'll be a number and it'll look like it's something, but it will be a non-representative number of the percentage of, say, what the independent variable, how much of the dependent variable is caused by the independent variable, right? So in simple linear regression, you must have continuous data on both sides. But there is a way to run a regression in which you use categorical data, and that it's commonly done, especially in politics, because let's say, and I use that above 18, below 18, because 18 is the age to vote. So let's say that you wanted to design a study in which you tested, say, a message from a candidate about Social Security, and you wanted to see how that message resonated and what sort of impression an audience took away from that message. But since it's politics and it's an election, you're really only interested in those who can vote. So in your survey, you would set up a categorical question that would divide your survey participants between those who were above 18, those who could vote, and those who were below 18. And in fact, it would be to your advantage to set the question up exactly that way. Are you older than 18? Are you younger than 18? Because strange as it may sound, if you say to some people, are you of voting age? They go, oh, what's that? You know, they might be 23. And they go, am I a voting age? All right. So you set up a category, and then you have a bunch of questions about the message from the candidate. What did you think? Was it positive? Was it negative? Does it make you look forward to retirement? Does it scare the heck out of you? Whatever. All right. And gathering information from those questions, you want to see if there's a causal relationship between this candidate's message and making people over 18 think positively about retirement, or maybe, what the heck, making people under 18 absolutely terrified of retirement. All right. In that case, you would need to run an equation in which you had regression with categorical variables. And that's what we're going to do this week. Once you get your head around it, all right, for next week, I'll actually give you an opportunity to run some simple regression with categorical variables. So material for this week, there are two things. One is a PDF, a little article to read, and then the next one is a video from our favorite folks over at DataTab. And extra points if you can follow along in the narrative and not get lost in the accent. Okay, that will explain why, sort of go over what I just went over with you, why you might want to run a regression with categorical variables, and then how you do it. Okay. All right, everybody. That is what you're going to be up to for this week. Remember to keep working on part 2 of those papers. I know some of you reached out to me, said, hey, I have a couple of questions. That's great. I want you to have questions. We're here to help. We're here with your professional development. All right. So, I'm sitting here. I'm waiting during my office hours for the phone to ring. So if you have questions, get in touch with me or shoot me an email, and we'll get together when we can. All right. I'll see you in the second video, and then I will see you on Canvas. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.